Tonight, the world remembers Pope Francis as the church looks for a way forward after his monumental reign. Grief and gratitude across the globe and here in the U.S. after Pope Francis dies at age 88. We have new details on his funeral plans and the secretive gathering to replace him. Who could be his successor? I'm Ellison Barber in for Tom Yamas. Tonight, tributes pouring in over the loss of Pope Francis, who led the church for over a decade. And right now, cardinals from around the world are getting ready to make their way to Vatican City to discuss who will be his successor. Taking a live look at a mass service being held in Buenos Aires, Argentina, at a church where Pope Francis discovered his vocation. Mourners continuing to pay their respects at this late hour. The Pope passing just hours after his surprise appearance on Easter Sunday, and just weeks after his lengthy hospitalization for double pneumonia. Pope Francis chose the path of priesthood in his early 20s. Born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, under the name Jorge Mario Bergoglio, he would become the first Jesuit and Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic Church. In February 2001, Pope John Paul II made him a cardinal. Just over a decade later, in March 2013, Pope Francis was elected pontiff and installed days later. His name paying homage to St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of the environment, animals, and birds. Pope Francis changed the culture of the Catholic Church, unnerving traditionalists as he pushed for inclusivity, immigrant rights, and was outspoken on climate change. At this hour, Catholics around the globe in mourning over the death of the beloved Pope, from the Vatican to Gaza to Mexico City and beyond. His formal funeral rites have already begun, and by Wednesday morning, the public viewing will begin at St. Peter's Basilica, with his funeral slated to take place in the next 4 to 6 days. Hundreds of thousands are expected to pay their respects. The big question tonight, when could we see the white smoke streaming out of the chimney at the Sistine Chapel, the silent signal that a new pope has been chosen? NBC's Molly Hunter is in Rome with more on how the intense conclave is set to unfold.
Shrouded in secrecy, the conclave begins 15 to 20 days following the death of a pontiff. Over the next 2 weeks, the 135 cardinals under the age of 80 eligible to vote for the next pope will descend on Vatican City. Pope Francis named 108 of the electors, shaping the global church in his image. 20 from countries that had never had a cardinal before.
This is a conclave where Pope Francis named 80% of the cardinals who will elect his successor, but they don't really know each other, and so name recognition will carry a lot in the days ahead.
In this centuries-old tradition, the cardinals are sealed inside the Sistine Chapel, beneath the watchful gaze of Michelangelo's frescoes, shut off from the outside world. After day one, 4 rounds of secret ballots every day until one name receives a 2/3 majority. The list of likely contenders spans the globe, from Asia to Africa to the Holy Land to Europe and Canada. Will the next pope share Francis's global outlook? Or will it be a more conservative voice?
The cardinals really face 2 choices in this election. Do they want to continue on the path of reform that Francis initiated, of opening the church up to the modern world? Or do they want a course correction to elect a pope that's perhaps more focused on doctrine and discipline? Those are really the 2 choices.
As the voting continues, the cardinals burn the ballots, producing black smoke or eventually white smoke to announce a new pope.
And Molly Hunter joins us now from the Vatican. Molly, you have been in Rome all day. What are you seeing and hearing from those paying their respects to Pope Francis?
Allison, you can see it's after midnight here, and there are still people out here. It has been flooded with people all day, and we actually met some Americans, Martin and Carol Apfel. Allison, they're from Detroit. They were here for Easter services yesterday, and they got to see Pope Francis, and they said this morning when the bells started ringing out, they ran here. They said pilgrims were crying. They said huge crowds of people, some tourists who were just curious. But Allison, I asked them what it felt like to be here, to be around all these people, and they said it was unbelievably moving just to be so close to other people while they prayed. Allison?
Molly Hunter at the Vatican, thank you. I want to bring in Kathleen Cummings. She is a professor of American and Religious Studies at the University of Notre Dame, and Bishop Robert Barron of Minnesota. He was appointed by Pope Francis and plans to attend the conclave in the coming weeks. Thank you both so much for joining us here on Top Story. Bishop Barron, let me start with you because you knew Pope Francis personally. Talk to us about your relationship with him and what his legacy, the good and the bad, means for the Catholic Church.
Well, I knew him because of three synods I was part of. Synod on Young People and then the Synod on Synodality, which had 2 sessions. So 3 Octobers in Rome, I spent that whole month. And the Pope was there practically every day. We had a chance to talk on a number of occasions. I always found him to be a very warm, very generous person. We usually spoke in Spanish, and he almost always had a little joke or something. And he knew the work I was doing in evangelization and appreciated that. So I, have a personal sense of loss at the death of the Pope. Every Catholic feels, we've lost our spiritual father, but I felt a greater kinship. His legacy, I think he was a great Pope of mercy. Misericordia, mercy was his favorite word, I think. And if John Paul called us to heroic sanctity, Francis was a great Pope for all of us who fall short of that and require the divine mercy. And he saw the church as a field hospital, which I think is a beautiful image. It means there are a lot of walking wounded around, and we need to be, cared for. And that's the face of Christ that he presented very much to the world from the beginning.
Well, let's talk about the process of mourning, because Kathleen, I understand in Catholic tradition, there is a period of time, a set amount of time, right, where a burial needs to take place. Walk us through the next steps here.
The next steps are that we'll be preparing for a papal funeral. And this is an interesting time because it's been 20 years since we've had both a papal funeral and a conclave. We had a conclave without a funeral in 2013, and then a papal funeral when Pope Benedict died without a conclave. So this is back to standard practice. The funeral will take place in the next 4 to 6 days, probably. The church has entered a period of mourning, a 9-day period of mourning. Cardinals are coming to Rome, where they will participate in the funeral, and then in general congregations, which are meetings of all the cardinals that take place before the conclave starts. This is a chance for cardinals to think about what is needed at this moment, what they need in a leader, what we need in a leader for the church. And those are very important meetings that will take place before the conclave actually begins.
And Bishop, I understand you will be attending the conclave. Walk us through your thought process at this juncture as you're grieving the loss of Pope Francis, but also trying to prepare for a pretty important responsibility. Where is your mental space at right now? How do you prepare for something like that?
I'm, of course, preparing not to be in the conclave, but simply to be an observer of it. And at the synod last October, there were about 50 cardinals present there. So I came to know a number of them. I think one thing about this conclave, it'll be a bit more open-ended because of the way Pope Francis chose cardinals from all over the world, from many sees that never had a cardinal before. I remember meeting the Cardinal of Mongolia, which has, I think, all of 5,000 Catholics. And I can testify that a lot of these cardinals don't know each other all that well. So I think a dynamic, the professor mentioned the general congregations, and they're going to have to get to know each other, I think, during that time. What's the church looking for? I think to continue the great teaching of the Second Vatican Council, which is the new evangelization. We have to declare Christ risen from the dead in a way that's compelling to the contemporary world. That was the agenda of Vatican II, the agenda of Paul VI, John Paul II, Benedict XVI, and Pope Francis. I heard him say with my own ears that his encyclical Evangelii Gaudium on the joy of the gospel, he said, that's the key to my pontificate. So I think that's what they're going to be interested in, finding someone who can declare Christ risen from the dead in a way that's compelling to the modern world. Above all the politics, I think that's what we're looking for.
And we heard Molly Hunter, Kathleen, talk about the fact that there is that age requirement to be able to actually vote. But give us a sense of some of the other qualifications that are necessary in order to be selected as the next pope. And in terms of front runners right now, given there are some American cardinals expected to attend to varying degrees all of the activities that will be playing out at the Vatican, is there a chance we could see the first pope from the United States?
Well, there's always a chance. I think the qualities that they'll be looking for are a person who can handle the complexities of the church in this moment, the complexities of the world at this moment, international experience. I think someone who knows Rome well, who knows how to get things done, perhaps, but also has a sense of is an outsider of sorts, a sense who knows it, can see what needs to be changed. So someone who's that perfect combination in the way Francis was. He was an outsider in the sense he was from the first pope from South America, but he also understood how Rome worked, and he had led a complex archdiocese for many years. So he had a sense of what the challenges that the church was facing. I think, yes, it's always possible that there will be an American pope, but of course the United States is not where the church is growing. The church has become increasingly global. Pope Francis was a global pope for a global church. And so I think someone who has a sense of the world beyond the United States, that's not to exclude anyone from the United States, but a sense to understand where the church is growing, and that is in the global South.
All right. Kathleen Cummings, Bishop Robert Barron of Minnesota, thank you both. We appreciate your time and insights.
Thanks. God bless you.
Thank you.
Another big story we're following in Indian